Pathaye Namo Namaha.
Namaste.
Welcome.
Welcome to our weekly online satsang. Satsang is a Sanskrit word that means community of truth, which sounds kind of precocious, but what it really is whenever two or more people on the spiritual path of seeking truth come together to share their truth, that's a satsang. So it's basically a fancy word for spiritual community, which is so important. And hopefully every one of us is able to find others on the path near where we live, so that if it's safe and we're allowed, we can come together physically. But we always have the ability to connect online. And what's beautiful about the Flowering Heart Satsang is that we have people joining us from other continents and countries and across great distances and ideological boundaries. We come from different spiritual backgrounds, different spiritual teachers and belief systems. What brings us together is that we are in the process of awakening and the flowering of our hearts in divine awakened consciousness. So welcome, you're not here by accident. We share throughout the Flowering Heart webcasts the Flowering Heart Blessing, which has a fancy Sanskrit name too, which doesn't matter. It's a transmission from the divine source for the purpose of causing your heart to flower with awakened, enlightened consciousness, with unconditional love and compassion, to release the spark of the divine within you, which is your sacred self, your original nature, to begin to flower and blossom and radiate out from the center. The Flowering Heart Blessing is similar to many other forms of blessing that are being shared on the planet today. It's so important that humanity shift and awaken from this delusion of competition, conflict, and war, and begin to build and give birth to a new civilization rooted in cooperation, harmony, and peace. That can only come through awakening into higher states of consciousness and the flowering of our hearts in deeper dimensions of divine love. So the Flowering Heart Blessing is all about that. There are others afoot these days on the planet, more than ever before. Shaktipat, various forms of Diksha, Reiki, blessings of the Holy Spirit, direct transmissions of light are present in all the great esoteric traditions in some form with some name. The Flowering Heart Blessing, though, is something that, while it's always been around, I'm sure, the divine showed it to me and Suzanne about 6 years ago when we were being called to a shift. We knew that our hearts were telling us that we were being called in a slightly different direction than we had been working in the 10 years previous to that. And we said, what do you want us to do now? And it was like a waterfall of pure light that came pouring down into our hearts and caused our hearts just to explode like supernova. And the divine said, give people this. Make sure you tell them it's directly from me. The Flowering Heart Blessing, unlike many other forms of blessing that are being shared today, does not come through any organization. It doesn't belong to Flowering Heart Center. It is a gift of the divine to whoever asks to receive it. And so the divine said, let them know this is not flowing through any particular master or saint or avatar or spiritual organization or hierarchy. It's directly from me to you, the divine is saying. And it's a gift of grace. Grace means free. Grace means it's because I love you, I give this to you, no strings attached, no cost. There's no cost for the Flowering Heart Blessing, and you're soaking in it right now. It's just flowing through you, and you're welcome to just keep drinking it in for the rest of our time together this evening and beyond. And it's free, and when you receive it, the divine wants you to know you are initiated to be able to share it with others. So absolutely everyone who's here tonight who connects with this energy, who has some sense of connection and likes the presence that you're feeling, just invite the divine to flow through you as an instrument, as a vessel of grace, and the divine will do all the rest. You don't need to know what you're doing. In fact, we just get out of the way. With the Flowering Heart Blessing, we just take an intent that the divine would pour grace, the Flowering Heart Blessing, into the person that we're holding in our consciousness. This could be at a distance, in prayer or in meditation, or it could be in person with the person's consent. You would just lightly lay your hands very, very gently and lightly on top of their heads and invite the divine to impart the Flowering Heart Blessing through you to this person, and that's it. Just feel what happens. The divine takes over immediately, and don't worry about whether you can or can't do it. You can't. And you don't need to, because the divine will. And please share it far and wide, and anyone that you share this blessing with that connects with it and appreciates it is also initiated to be able to pass it on. So it's a great thing. This coming Sunday will be our monthly interfaith communion with the cosmic Christ. So many of you already know about it, but if you don't, we mean interfaith. You don't need to be a Christian to participate in this interfaith communion we're offering. And the focus is, well, there are two aspects to Christ, at least, but that people, that we could relate to. One is the historical Jesus of Nazareth, whom Christians believe is a human embodiment of the cosmic Christ. The cosmic Christ is an aspect of the divine that is without beginning and without end. It is what some people call the Christ within, the God within, the Paramatma, the divine spark that indwells you. It is just that. The cosmic Christ is that spark of divinity that dwells at the center of every creature, of everything, including planets and stars and universes. At the center of everything is a spark of the divine. Everything that exists is an emanation, an outshining of that divine spark. And within that spark, which dwells in you, the center of your spiritual heart, is the blueprint for transformation and evolution into what we're becoming. So many people these days talk about Christ consciousness, about the God within, about the oneness of all things, about unconditional universal love. Well, that's the Christ aspect, is unconditional love and compassion and mercy, and very heart-centered. So lots of people have a sense of what Christ consciousness is, and feel that they're on the heart path, including Sufis, including Mahayana Buddhists, including so many other spiritual paths we could point to, that wouldn't consider themselves Christians, especially when we talk about the religion with its dogmas and its rules and its history, which has been, as with all religion, sometimes unfortunate along the way. But get a sense of the heart path and the one love, the unconditional love of the heart. And so that's the cosmic Christ. And in our communions with the cosmic Christ, we open the door for a very powerful sharing in the presence of the cosmic Christ. And we celebrate a very simple communion service that has elements that have been used by Christic communities down through the ages, and everybody's welcome. And if you want to fully participate, you can have it where you are at your location. You can join us right here at Flowering Heart Center. But you could have a cup of grape juice or wine. You could have a piece of bread, preferably flat bread or unleavened bread. And we'll be praying and taking an intention that the grace that is manifesting on the altar here will manifest right there on your altar or your table. And we can all fully participate in a really beautiful experience of the presence of Christ. So we do that once a month. And that's coming up this Sunday, August 29th. It's 11 a.m. Eastern Time. It will be right here on Facebook Live. It will also be on Vimeo, if you know how to get to it. There will be a posting on Facebook between now and the end of the week. If you're on our email list, you'll get all the details. In fact, you got them pretty much today. I think, except I sent out the wrong link. Oh.
Do the correction
so
on Saturday.
Ignore the link for the Cosmic Communion I sent out today. But we're going to be we're going to be focusing our meditation this coming Sunday on living in the light. And I had a very beautiful and clear instruction from the divine on this, so I'm anticipating it'll be really nice. So at this point, is there anything else? Okay, we open it to questions and answers about the spiritual journey. It could be about your spiritual practice or what you're experiencing in your path, where you'd like to get some clarity, some insight. Of course, if you've had a breakthrough experience of awakening. We'd love to hear about that too. And this is your part, your contribution in the satsang is to bring these stimulating questions up, because that's what inspires the divine to pour out grace in our satsangs. Okay, let's back up to the. So Paula wrote, my ego, please? My ego is in a state of starving. Nothing seems good or feels good because it wants someone else, human, it wants human intervention. Anything was still good. I don't quite understand. You wanted human intervention and there isn't any. How does one be with this and not be depressed? Okay, let's start at the beginning. My ego is in a state of starving. Well, and nothing seems good or feels good because it wants. The good news is your ego does not need to be fed. Yes, it always wants to feed, mostly on you. It's all about its own survival. It's an aspect of the mind that is seeking to protect the existence and the continuity of the mind ongoing. But the thing is, that's not the real you at all. And so the ego is constantly saying it's not okay, it doesn't feel good. If you did find food that the ego really liked, it would just want more. There would never be enough. The ego's job is to keep you in a perpetual state of there's something wrong, how do we fix this? I don't like this, how do we make it end? I really like it, I don't want to lose it, how do I get more of this and protect it? And that's not helpful. What needs to be fed is your higher self, is your spiritual nature, your true self. And the more that grows and is fed, so that's the way out. That's the way to not be depressed, is to feed your higher self, which is not self-centered. It is God-centered or spirit-centered and service-centered, love-centered, pouring out to others. And when you're doing that, when your attention, your awareness is centered on the light, on the spirit, on the divine, and your energies are being utilized in the service of others, I don't think it's possible to be depressed. It's only when the ego tricks you into getting turned in on yourself. But don't feel bad, because it happens to everybody who still happens to have an ego, which is almost everybody that still has a mind. There's a teaching that we've shared over the years, very briefly. Originally, we shared it as the 6 needs of the mind. In more recent years, I've heard it entitled the 6 needs of the ego. So here it goes. They're sort of in pairs. The first 2 is we need certainty and stability in our lives. I mean, we need to know the sun's going to come up and etc. We need certainty and stability in our life. And the other thing we need in that first pair is variety. We need surprises and variety. If everything was just certain all the time, it would get so boring. It would be like Groundhog Day, just the same thing over and over and over again. On the other hand, if everything was in a constant state of variety and change, the mind gets freaked out because we never know what's coming. Okay, so we need stability, we need uncertainty, we need variety and excitement. And the next set of pairs is we need to love and to be loved. It's a need. It's a need of the mind, actually. It's a need of the ego. We need to be loved, to feel loved, and to give love. The other one that's paired with that is we need to feel significant. Now, this is kind of a paradox, because in giving love, we sort of lay ourselves down and we humble ourselves and we become little in giving ourselves to others. In the craving for significance, we want to feel big. We want to feel like we're important somehow. And if we put too much emphasis on our own significance, nobody loves us. If we just continually give ourselves in love, then we can feel rather insignificant and empty because we're not receiving back the sense that we're important. Okay, so those are the first four. There are two more. And the two most important ones, and these are really spiritual needs almost, and that is the need for growth and the need to make a contribution. So which do you think is the most important of all these? Well, without ever having heard this teaching before, people almost always say love. I mean, that's more important than whether my life is stable or constantly shifting. It's certainly more important than significance. It's even more important than my own personal growth and my role in making a contribution. But as it turns out, if you put love first, you pretty much are going to be completely out of balance and probably look for love in all the wrong places. So the things to prioritize are your own growth. And by that, I don't mean feeding the ego. We started with that, but nourishing and nurturing your higher self, your spiritual nature. And not becoming overly focused on it, balancing your spiritual growth and your spiritual practice and everything you're doing to help yourself evolve spiritually, balancing that with the need to make a contribution to the greater good. If those two wings are balanced in your life, you will have certainty, variety, love, and significance. The universe will just flood you with exactly the right balance of all those things. So a great way to escape from the condition that you described is to feed your higher nature, which is where we started, and be involved in making a contribution, which is service, which is right where we began. Do you want to add anything to that? Okay. I also hear that if we look around and see the beauty that surrounds us and feel the gratitude for that, it's impossible to be depressed either. So, alrighty. And hi, everybody. So nice to see some of your names. Oh, yeah. If you don't leave a comment, at least leave us a like with that thumbs up symbol and give us a heart or a thumbs up, because then we get to, when we're finished tonight, we can go in and see who is with us, and we so enjoy seeing many of you are old friends, and we've been walking together for a long time, and it warms our hearts, and we send extra blessing. Okay, Kenneth writes, I watched something from an Andean shaman named Puma about shamanic healing. A couple of things I found interesting that he said was that you don't heal anyone. Healing is done by divine spirit, and you are only the guide to help the person go through the self-healing process. I love it. Mm-hmm. I mean,
it's right on.
It is. I recently stumbled across some promotion about Puma. I didn't really have a chance to look into it. He's an Andean shaman, yeah. I have a dear old friend who I met 40 years ago when I was deeply involved in the Taoist arts, energy work and internal alchemy, and using energy to heal. And he and I had deep discussions because he was from an Andean shamanic ancient lineage. And was very powerful, very evolved. And we recognized each other instantly. We felt each other's belly, from 100 yards away, and just started laughing because even though I had gone the Taoist way and he'd gone the Andean way, we could see a lot of the same things and feel a lot of the same things. And he told me, I don't do healing work anymore. And he had an interesting take. He said, because there's nothing wrong that needs to be fixed, actually. Whatever process you're going through is perfect. Now, I can assist you in the process that you're going through, but I can't fix you. I don't need to fix you. In order to heal you, I'd have to make you sick first. And as far as I'm concerned, you're not. And that was my first exposure to that very enlightened point of view that there's nothing to fix. And that we have to see a person as sick first in order to put them in that box to think we need to fix something. Everything we're going through is a process that's leading to transformation. I admit there's a learning curve.
When I first started, I've been a Reiki master for decades now, and the energy work that I do now was actually downloaded to me bit by bit over a period of a few years. And the first time I started, really using it in practice with people, I was sitting there and my hands were moving. I'm like, okay, first I do this, and then I do this, and then I do that. And I just started cracking up because I really didn't know what I was doing. I was being led completely by the divine, and I just started laughing in the middle of the session because it was just ridiculous. The mind and the ego wants to control everything. And I've learned that the more that I just surrender to the divine will, my hands know exactly where to go and how much energy is going to be flowing through there and when it stops, and so it's very intuitive. And oftentimes people will say, what did you feel, or am I okay, or it's like they want a medium or a psychic or something scanning them. And the divine, for me, doesn't work that way. I just usually tell them, I stay out of it as much as I can unless I hear something really loud inside, like B complex, or the vitamin, or probiotics, or if there's an imbalance that the divine really wants me to hear, then I'll share it with the person. But otherwise, I just let the energy do what it's going to do. And I find that that's more powerful because I'm always saying that I'm not nearly as intelligent as the divine is. and for me to assume that I know what somebody needs, I think it's a little bit of ego and mental.
Well, I was hearing the divine talk while you were just talking, that this is the difference between psychic healing and spiritual healing. I mean, they're two very different realms. The psychic realm is the soul, the mind. It includes thoughts and emotions and mental energies. And spirit spirit is indescribable, but it's pure awareness that is one with the divine. And so it is possible. There are many practices, techniques for developing what they call psychic gifts, but they're psychic powers, actually. And so all that realm of scan me, tell me what you see, read me, give me a reading about the future, all that is psychic. It's all of the mind. Is it bad? No. It's not bad, but it is not spiritual. And spiritual healing is what Suzanne was just describing, which is a yielding to the divine spirit, to work through our spirit, and as above, so below, but it's just sort of a yielding to a cooperation. It's not just getting out of the way, like I said earlier. It's getting in the way, but not, but really in the Tao, so that when the divine begins to move and to guide, Suzanne's hands are there to be moved and to be used. What if she just left the room and said, oh, the divine could do it? Well, yeah, I suppose. But the divine generally works through us or with our cooperation. And so that's where the healer is still important. But in this case, like Kenneth said, the healer is the divine, and we're the instruments of healing. And so there are spiritual gifts and powers, and there are psychic gifts and powers. And I would just advise, like I think most spiritual teachers throughout time, that if what you're really wanting is oneness with the divine, if what you're wanting is awakening, enlightenment, transformation, to shed the ego and all of that, that it's better off not to focus on developing psychic powers. Because they make you, oh wow, I can see auras. Look at those colors around you. And oh, I can sort of hear your thoughts. And I can. So subtly, not so subtly once you see it, you realize that builds spiritual ego. And it isn't even really spiritual, it's ego that claims to be spiritual. And props itself up and prides itself on the fact that it now has paranormal abilities. Paranormal abilities tend to make, when there's still an ego there, make one feel superior to those that don't have those abilities. So it's a long, lengthy trap. Best avoided.
Funny you brought that up, because when I was younger, I was reading all these books on different healing modalities and seeing auras and all of this stuff, and I was like, oh, I really want to do that. I really want that. I really, really, really want that. And then as I've matured, I guess, whenever a new insight or a new level of healing energy gets downloaded to me, it feels normal. It's kind of like, if you learn how to see auras, it's like they were there before, but you just didn't see them, and now it's normal and natural. So it's like Michael said, the ego wants these things. The ego wants to have, supernatural significance.
I want to feel significant.
Supernatural abilities, but when you start to develop some of them, it's like no big deal, because it's like somebody just turned on a light in a dark room and now you're seeing what's in the room.
But if we get attached to them,
right, and
we have an ego about
right,
it makes the journey beyond the mind and the ego harder.
Right.
Because we don't want to. I once asked a friend of mine who's a Sufi master, how come I've known some masters that just couldn't fully surrender to God. I mean, there's no question they were masters. They could levitate and had all these extraordinary powers and could go into, deep meditative states of samadhi, and you just, and their energy amazing. So they're masters, but yet there was still ego there. I said, why can't they surrender their ego? And he said, because they've spent lifetimes developing these powers and abilities. And to fully merge with the divine, they would have to let all that go. Surrender. Let it be dissolved. Let it, surrender that whole part of their being. That really impressed me. I didn't expect him to have the answer. Okay, Kenneth went on. He said the second thing that he got from listening to Puma is a saying they have. I am only you being a reflection of me. That still sounds pretty me-centered to me. I'm just a reflection of you. Wait a minute.
I'm too dyslexic for that.
I'm only you being a reflection of me. Well, it is true that everyone around us is a reflection of us. And I think that the deeper truth is that we're all reflections of each other. But I'm just a reflection of you. I'm only you being a reflection of me. That's almost like a koan. It just takes you and spins you around.
I have to chew on that one for a while. It's true that I've been contemplating perception a lot lately, because people are so polarized and so certain that their opinion is the truth. And I've just really stepped back and been observing my feelings about things and the news that I hear, and I've just taken a step back and just tried to be more centered in my heart and focused on peace. And it's so interesting how we can get ourselves into believing our perception so much that it changes our behavior, it changes our outlook, it changes our perception of the world, it changes our moods, our psychology, it changes everything. And so I've really been challenging myself to just take a step back and just see things through the eyes of love. And if I can't, then to look within myself and say, you're being judgmental, you're being critical, you're being something that's not in alignment with your higher self. And it's been a very good meditation. It's been a really, really good meditation, because our perceptions, what we see in others, is really what we're having inside of ourselves. And the more that we look at that and actively grow and seek for that to be healed and integrated, the easier it is to find that peace and unconditional love inside.
Yep.
Yep. Thanks, Kenneth.
That was nice.
Tasty kernels.
The way they put that, though, is really that's a twist. I'm only you being a reflection of me. Yeah, because there's really only one of us here, actually. And we're all the outer world is a reflection of the inner world. And I love the way you put it. Very nice. Okay, so Katerina says, I love so much how humble you are and how easy it is for you to explain everything. Wow.
When Michael and I first started doing the flowering heart blessing, we were at a juncture in our life, like you said earlier, and we were doing all kinds of rituals and stuff, and I just looked at Michael and I said, it's just got to be more simple than this. I mean, and it's not so simple getting through to our cores and getting to a flowering heart, but it really is. It actually really is, and we're our own most difficult obstacles. But and the mind thinks that it has to jump through all these hoops. That was another thing I thought about when Michael was explaining the flowering heart blessing at the beginning. Was, we've had some people that we've known for years who, when we started doing the flowering heart blessing, they said, you can't just get initiated or activated after one blessing. You have to go through a process, or a weekend, or you just can't do that. And actually, we discovered you can just do that. But that's also another part of a stumbling block on our spiritual journey, is that the ego and the mind want a certificate, and we feel like the more that we've worked for something, the more important it is. And so and if it doesn't cost anything, or it doesn't cost my time or my energy, then it's not special. And that's something that's another layer of programming that we have in this world. And so, the more that we can start reshifting our positions, something that's given freely, I find more valuable than something that you have to, make a big effort for. Because if it's coming from the heart and it's sincere, it's easy and it's peaceful and it feels right. Yep.
I can't. There's a verse of scripture I can't remember, but it talks about the gifts of grace that the divine gives to those who are disciplined. So, there is a place for spiritual practice, for sure. Most of us need some help in slowing the mind down or transcending it, so we can see our true nature shining through the cloud of thoughts and chaos. And for most of us, that just doesn't just happen. We put some effort into it, even though it's a gift of grace. So, but you get stuck. You can get stuck there. I've done gajillions of rituals. From different, yoga sets, or in internal qigong practices that I've been doing for going on 50 years now. Which are very intricate, and you're counting breaths, and the movements and the mudras are so precise, and they do something. But it doesn't make you enlightened. But boy, it'll open the door to pure consciousness in a very beautiful way. But I've done all these rituals, from high mass to Hindu pujas, and yes, it is much simpler than that. But that doesn't mean that if you're rooted in one of those traditions, that to have a specific structure to your meditation life, or your prayer life, or your worship life, that can support you and help keep you aimed in the right direction. When we get in trouble is when we think that any of those things we're doing are the key, necessary. Anyway. So, okay. And that it's easy to explain everything. First of all, not everything can be explained. But what we do manage to explain, it's easy only because it's spirit inspiring and speaking. Again, it's just like Suzanne was talking about how spirit moves her hands when she's doing healing work, because it's the divine doing it, and moving her hands. She wouldn't even have, look, Mom, no hands.
Actually, I usually keep my eyes closed.
Right. So it's the same thing actually when teaching. If it's actually spiritually inspired and anointed teaching, it's so directed by spirit that it's easy. It flows. And I remember when I discovered, it was like the divine pushed me out in front of a crowd. I won't get into it, but it was in a very public place, and I was very shy and introverted, having a lot of mystical experiences. And the divine said, open your mouth and tell everybody about it. And I was like, I can't do that. And the divine said, you must do that. And I said, well, let me feel something. And the divine said, well, if you'll obey me and open your mouth, you'll really feel something. I said, let me feel it first. And then, we argued for a while. And finally, I just opened my mouth and just said a word. And one word became two. And this flood of spiritual truths just started to pour out of my heart through my mouth. I went, wow, that's cool. And from that day to this, I've never been afraid to stand in front of a crowd and open my mouth as if my intelligence would fail me, because my intelligence failed me a long time ago. So I rely on spirit, and whenever I get put in front of a group, spirit will always give inspired insights to share, and it is easy. So
it's funny because sometimes we'll go back and watch these webcasts again, because what comes out of our mouths, we're so surprised. We're like, wow, that was really good. I never could have come up with that.
Because I didn't come up with that.
Because I didn't come up with it. Yeah.
Yekaterina says, as an actress, I have two important jobs in September 3rd. In September 3rd, tomorrow, the production, have the meeting to decide about the break, etc. Could you pray so I can do both jobs? They're great roles and good money that my family and I need. Sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Why not? Let us know what happens.
Yeah.
Okay, are there any other comments? I think we've pretty much used up. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so now, if your eyes are still open, gently close them. And just allow yourself to enter in to the sacred space of your spiritual heart. And there, invoke the presence. Invoke the divine presence. Turn your heart and your attention to the presence. And keep returning to it. Within the center of your being dwells the divine itself. The whole divine, not just a drop of it. The divine is fully present within you. It is all-powerful, all-knowing, all-wise, and all-loving. It is pure, unconditional love. This presence can do anything, and it loves you exactly as you are, with all of your quirks, faults. What you see as a fault is often just a misperception. The divine sees you as you truly are, a child of the divine itself. You have always been one. The light that lights your consciousness, that gives you life, is the light of the divine itself. It yearns to awaken you beyond the mind, beyond the body, into a direct realization of who you really are. You are an eternal spirit. You are divine. Welcome the presence. And just receive the love and the grace that's flooding you from within, from above, from all around you. The presence is pouring grace out to you, to awaken you, to transform you, to help you. Receive the flowering heart blessing. This presence knows exactly what you need. You don't need to even ask now. Just receive. Allow the presence to help you. To try to do anything at all. No words, no efforts. Just keep drinking in this presence that is pouring out to you. Just keep drinking it in, soaking it up, receiving it, allowing it to do its work in you. Imagine that we're all sitting in a circle, a blessing circle together, with our eyes closed. Lift up your hands with your palms open, facing forward, and invite the divine to pour through you the flowering heart blessing to all the other participants sitting in the blessing circle. Know in this, it is more blessed to give than to receive, as the divine flows through you to bless all the other people in the circle. It's doing a mighty work within you. And all of those who are receiving the blessing flowing through you are sending the blessing back to you and to everyone else in the circle. So we just invite the divine to pour the flowering heart blessing through us to everyone else in the satsang. And you could open your eyes and begin to make direct eye contact with Suzanne and or me. Just keep looking at least one of our eyes. As we begin the light meditation, the divine begins to pour floods, oceans of light and grace and love through every pore of our being to you, especially through our eyes, which are called the doorways of the soul. As you just keep looking, that light pours in through your eyes, down into your spiritual heart, causing the flames of divine love and transformation to grow ever brighter. Nothing to do but keep looking. this for a few more minutes as the grace settles within you. Now keep meditating as long as you like, or lie down in Shavasana, which is to lie on your back with your eyes closed, your arms loosely at your sides with your palms open, turned upward, just dissolving in the presence and gratitude. We love you very much.
Much love, light, and blessings until we connect again.
Until next we meet, the divine in us perceives and acknowledges the divine in you, and we bow to you. Namaste.
Namaste.